Hey there, friends and enemies. JoPa here again, and today I want to talk about how I think Rocksteady can turn things around with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League despite a rocky launch. I am a longtime MMO and looter shooter player who's seen plenty of rocky launches in the past. Final Fantasy XIV, Destiny 2 had a really rocky launch, which lasted all the way up until the Warmind expansion, and then finally Forsaken. You saw Fallout 76, which really struggled until they were able to really turn things around and make it a game that most people will admit is far better than it was at first. And so I think Suicide Squad can proceed down a similar path, potentially, if they're given the opportunity, the funding, and the time to make it happen. Otherwise, this game will turn out to be the next Anthem or Marvel's Avengers. Anthem obviously struggled so mightily and then was shelved pretty quickly in the grand scheme of things, whereas Marvel's Avengers struggled for quite some time, chugged along, and continued to add content, but not enough to really fully engage the player base. Suicide Squad has a full year of free content set up already with seasons 1 through 4. That means 4 new characters, new endgame, all that kind of good stuff. And I wonder if all of that will actually see the light of day after the news that broke today, which is that Warner Brothers Discovery has said that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a financial flop so far. Does that mean it can't eventually make revenue for the company, for Rocksteady and Warner Brothers? No. I think there are ways that this game can turn it around, and I'm going to go over them now. First off, they need to fix some of the progression, login, and matchmaking issues. When you have a smaller player base, it is more important to make sure that everybody who wants to play the game can access it and make that progress. That's got to be priority number one, even if it were to mean pushing back Season 1 slightly, depending on when in March they currently have it scheduled to drop. I think that would be absolutely fair. You want to make sure that everybody is ready to play once the new content does drop. And that leads me to the next point, which is you want to make sure that things are right first before you drop a big chunk of content. You don't want to drip feed the content and have a little bit here, a little bit there, because then what happens, it's not enough to get people excited, have them wanting to check out the game. The counterpoint to that is if you drop a ton of content with Season 1, the new character, the new endgame, and a lot of it's fun, plus that probably will coincide with a sale of some sort in the near future, you might see an uptick in the player base as the excitement returns to the game. Players are jumping in, you see clips, you see people having fun, and you look at Helldivers 2 right now, which has had matchmaking issues, which has had issues with logging in and full server queues and everything, and still it succeeded because the gameplay is fun, because people can see these clips and the viral moments and all that kind of good stuff, and it's exciting. Everyone wants to be a part of that. That doesn't happen when all the news surrounding Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is currently negative. So I do feel like that the new content is important, but they have to make sure the game is fixed as much as possible before that does happen, because you don't want to get everyone excited to jump back in, and then all of a sudden the game is broken for the majority of them. That's going to cause an even worse issue. Now let's jump into the content. One, story content is good, but endgame content is more important. We already know that they're improving killing time to make the map more condensed, so you don't have to traverse as much between enemy spots, and that will allow people to farm those mastery ranks and really maximize their time when they're playing this. Because right now, the killing time mission is a horde mode, but it doesn't feel like it's dense enough, so you waste a lot of time, and this event, the killing time, can last a very long time if you are just running from place to place trying to kill enemies instead of having them more clumped up. And so I think that's a very good change. We're also getting 3 more of the finite crisis missions, which should be different from the current ones we have. So doubling the amount of endgame activities that we have that are strictly finite crisis missions, which I think is a good thing. Having a bit more variety is good. We also know that there's a new character to level up, which will be nice. But we need to see something more substantial with regards to endgame. Whether that is a raid or a dungeon or something completely unique, like a PvEVP mode or something of that nature. You look at something like Exoprimal, which has a competition, which a lot of times the players aren't directly competing against each other, but they're racing against the clock versus each other. That could be something that would benefit Suicide Squad as well. And make sure like you are going head to head. We already have leaderboards, but now you're going 1-on-1 or 4-on-4 with other players in order to see who can get the best time, who can get the best rewards, and really have the same content being played at the same time, but a different type of challenge. I think that could be very interesting if they're able to do something of that nature. But they really need to deliver on the content. And I hope Warner Brothers gives them that opportunity. We don't see the layoffs happening too soon, which I fear might happen sooner rather than later if the sales numbers are as bleak as people think they are. I know on Steam it's been really poor. On Xbox it's looked really poor. PlayStation is the only possible saving grace because it was high up there on the charts for pre-orders and sales. So we'll have to see how it is in total. Hopefully it's enough to sustain them for a bit of time, so that way we can continue seeing more of the new content. But I do think the story content that we get with Season 1 will also be very important to change the narrative around the game. Right now, they're so backlogged at Rocksteady, fixing bugs and making sure the game is working properly, if at all possible, that there's not the hype that we need to see from the developers. There's not a lot of people excited to talk about, okay, this is coming soon, this is coming next, this is what you have to look forward to. And so you want that positive momentum with the community to override the negativity. And that's something that can't happen so long as they're constantly fighting all these issues. And live service is a big step for a lot of these game companies that I think is hard to understand until you're into it. Bungie has talked about it. Other live service games that have talked about how the transition is so difficult, and having enough content for these players who are constantly hungry for more is very, very challenging. So I think the main things we need to see first: fix some things, make sure everything is working correctly before jumping into Season 1. Season 1, maximize the content, but get people excited. Start talking about what's coming soon. Start hyping people up and really start focusing on what the future holds for this game. Assure the player base that it's not just going to completely disappear. They're not going to throw the roadmap out the window, which is a massive fear, I'm sure, of a lot of players at this point who don't want to sink the time, energy, and effort into a game that is just going to disappear sooner rather than later. And also give us a word of the offline mode, because if the game does eventually disappear, which all live service games do eventually, but if it does sooner rather than later, at least we have that offline mode to play and still enjoy if we want to jump back into it. Anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Suicide Squad can be saved? I know a lot of people are probably going to be negative about this. A lot of people are upset about the state of the game, and I understand that. But for me, the game is fun. I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the end game. I've enjoyed playing the different characters, and I think it has so much potential still, even though, again, I know I'm in the minority with it. So let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more videos for Suicide Squad on this channel. I'll definitely be posting more as we head into Season 1. I can't wait for that. My name is JoPa. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.